Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Moonbound Silence. Synopsis. Orphaned at a young age, she was once the daughter of a powerful alpha, destined for greatness. But when her family was slaughtered in a brutal ambush, she became the sole survivor only to be enslaved by the same pack responsible for her tragedy. Forced to live in the shadows, her true lineage remains hidden from all, her power buried beneath years of cruelty and torment. Now, as she nears adulthood, the truth begins to stir. The alpha's son, strong, conflicted, and destined for power, knows the truth of her identity. With her fate and the future of the pack hanging in the balance, she must decide: will she rise from the ashes of her past, claim her rightful place, and seek revenge on those who wronged her? Or will she remain shackled to the life of a slave, forever silenced by the weight of her secrets? In a world ruled by wolves, bloodlines, and betrayal, the choice between love and power can tear even the strongest bonds apart. Episode 1. Chapter 1-5. Saren's P.O.V. Slap. You, keep your eyes away, my friend. In my face that wolf howls, blaming me for his partner's look. When I had one eye. She was just too hurt to admit I looked better than her, even in a maid's uniform. My name is Saren Calloway, and tomorrow will be my 18th birthday. I live at the Blood Moon Pack, which is led by their alpha Eric Patterson and Luna Nicole. They are both total and were responsible for the slaying of my entire family, the Iron Hollow Pack. They have no idea that I'm an alpha's daughter. My father, Alpha Gideon Calloway, was kind and treated everyone fairly. However, Alpha Eric treats everyone as if they are beneath him. Luna Nicole, and their son, Kale for short, are no better. When I was 10 years old, Alpha Eric and his pack slaughtered my family, leaving me as the only survivor. They found me in the ruins of the pack house and brought me in to live with them. At first, I thought it was because they felt remorse, but I was wrong. They turned me into their very own marionette. From the age of 10, I was doing all of the housework for a pack house that housed over 50 werewolves. For the last 8 years, I've been a slave to the people who have caused me nothing but pain and suffering. They killed my family, they treat me like garbage, and I sleep in a room under the staircase that used to be shoe closet, on a cot that I barely fit on, and an old muggy quilted blanket that I made myself from old sheets that were going to be thrown out. Did you hear me, you piece of SHT? Get away from my mate, the she-wolf, whose name I never bothered to learn, screamed in my face. She tried to slap me again, but I caught her hand. Do not touch me, I tell her with venom in my voice. I wasn't allowed to talk to, let alone talk back to anyone, but I was hoping that this would get me sent to the laundry room for the rest of the day. Saren. I heard Alpha Eric. I turn around and look him dead in the eyes. No one ever dared to look him in the eyes, because, well, he is the alpha. However, he is not my alpha, so he had no power over me. This was the main reason why I was beaten and starved. Neither he nor anyone else in this house would force me to submit to them. You know the rules. I just glared at him. Go to the laundry room, no dinner for you, he boomed in an alpha tone. I just rolled my eyes and walked away. Sweetheart, I told you we should have gotten rid of her, I hear Luna Nicole say as I'm walking away. Go ahead, I sneer, turning back to them. I'd like to see you learn to cook and clean. You can't even put on a pot of boiling water without burning down half the kitchen. You little, she shrieked and slapped me. The slaps barely even hurt anymore, it happened so frequently over the last 8 years. Is that the best you got? I give her a dirty look and walk away. I can hear her cursing her head off and whining like the little asterisk she is. How the hell she became Luna I will never know. I go to the laundry room in the basement, and I just stay there until I have to go make dinner. I start to fold sheets because the scent of clean laundry calms me. You probably wonder why I stay here. The answer is simple. I have a roof over my head, food to eat, and somewhere to sleep. I may sleep on a cot, but it is still better than the floor or out on the streets. I hoped that the moon goddess took pity on me when I gain my wolf, and gives me a mate that will love me, cherish, and protect me. If I don't find my mate tomorrow, then I made a promise to myself to leave and live as a rogue. The Blood Moon Pack was only able to hold me until then, and they knew this. After tomorrow I would be done with the place, because legally, as an adult, they would have no power over me, especially since I am also an alpha by blood. Ash's POV. I was in my soon-to-be office breaking it in with a she-wolf whose name I can't even remember. I was balls deep inside her tight pu.ssy as her walls were clenching onto my throbbing D.C.K. Yes. Ash. Me harder. I told you not to say my name. I roar at her. I hated it when they spoke or said my name. It ruined the fantasy that it was Saren writing underneath me. I turned 18 6 months ago and knew from that very day that Saren, our house slave, was my mate. She was still 17 at the time. My wolf, Kano, was excited when we discovered this, but I wasn't. I was disgusted that the moon goddess would pair me with such a lowlife. I made a mental note to reject her, but Kano was fighting me on it. Whenever I brought a she-wolf to my room or my office too, Kano and I would fight. He wanted to save himself for Saren, but I was already dead set on rejecting her. But because Kano and I share a mind, I couldn't help but find her beautiful, and sexy. She was actually, even a blind man could tell Saren was a looker. Sleek dirty blonde hair, dark brown eyes, natural peach P.S., beautiful smile and a body to die for. Even though she was starved most of her life, it didn't stop her body from developing in the most amazing way. If I wanted to get off, I had to picture it was her beneath me whenever I *veeked a girl, otherwise, I would go limp in 2 seconds flat. Arg! Arg! Wait, the Omega shouted, but it was too late. I pulled out over her. I didn't even yet. Too bad, now get out of my office. Prick, she shouted and left. I honestly could care less if any of the girls I slept with got off. Tomorrow is Saren's birthday, and I was ready to see if she indeed was my mate or not. I still planned on rejecting her, and I was going to do it in front of the entire pack. Do not reject our mate. What is wrong with you? Shut up, Kano. I can't have a mate as weak as her. It doesn't matter if I find her physically attractive or not. She's not worthy. If you hurt our mate, I will make your life a living nightmare. Calm down, we will get a second chance. You know that is a rarity amongst our kind. Well, I'm an alpha, the moon goddess knows full well that I need a Luna to be strong. So, she will give us a second chance, a better chance. Get you out of you. I shove Kano to the back of my mind. I knew what I was doing. But it was true what he said. The moon goddess rarely gave second chances. I pulled up my shorts and boxers and called Saren to my office to clean it and to get out the stench of she-wolf. I wasn't able to mind-link her because she had no wolf, and even if she did, she wasn't actually a member of our pack, so mind-linking her would never be possible. A few minutes after I sent for her, she came in, and she was wearing a simple t-shirt that was too big for her, but she tied the hem at the corner by her HP so it would fit better. She was wearing leggings that were all too faded. I could tell they were the same ones she wore on a daily basis. Her hair was in a high ponytail, and it revealed her neck. I shook my head to clear my thoughts. Thoughts I knew for a fact that Kano put there. I hate that I felt the mate bond with her already, but I despised her, nonetheless. She was nothing but filth, and as an alpha, I didn't do filth. Hurry up, will you? I shouted at her. I wanted her out of my sight. More so because the mate bond was driving me insane. Because she was going to be 18 in less than 24 hours, I could feel that she was my mate. Calm down, I'm done, she muttered and stood up to walk away. What did you say to me? I roared and grabbed her arm, turning her to face me. I grabbed both of her shoulders and brought us impossibly close. I scowled at her while looking her dead in the eyes. Most Omegas would tremble and cower, but she didn't. All because she had no ties to this pack. I couldn't make her submit. She glared at me with those beautiful chocolate eyes. I found myself getting lost in her eyes. I looked down at her L.P.S., and all I wanted to do was K.S.S. her. Get off of me, she screamed and pushed me away. For a millisecond, her lack of reciprocation actually hurt my feelings. But I pushed those feelings aside and watched her walk away. Saren's POV. After being that close in proximity to Ash, I needed a hot shower to rid myself of that stench, but I didn't have access to a shower, so I had to settle for the pond outside. It was the middle of fall, and this was the only access to water I had to clean myself off. I had access to the guest half bath to brush my teeth and do my business, but my hair was too long to even attempt to wash in the sink. Luckily, the pond wasn't that dirty. It was well maintained, and it was filled with water from the melting snow up in the mountains. I didn't have time to do it now, unfortunately, because I had to get dinner ready for the packhouse and its members, all 53 of them. Cooking for 53 people was ridiculous, but after doing for nearly a decade, I've grown accustomed to it. I went down to the kitchen and prepared for dinner. If I was lucky, the alpha would have forgotten he said no dinner to me, but that was a big if, so I didn't hold my breath. Once everyone at the table's eating, I stood by at the kitchen waiting for any instructions or orders from pack members, whether it was seconds, more drinks, or to clean up their mess. Saren, come, Alpha Eric said. Yes. I said politely. Tomorrow is your 18th birthday, is it not? He asked me. I looked at him and nodded. Good, then tomorrow you spend the day preparing for Ash's alpha ceremony. Excuse me. You are aware his alpha ceremony is this coming Saturday, are you not? I am, but you said I could have my birthday to myself. Well, I changed my mind. After your disgusting attitude, and disrespectful behavior towards your Luna. She is not my Luna. I shouted. The table gasped. Do not interrupt me when I am speaking. Eric roared in my face. This would normally make any other wolf submit, but it had no effect on me and he knew it. You will do as I say. Prepare for Ash's ceremony. And you still start by sending out invitations to neighboring packs on this list, he exclaimed and shoved a list into my C.Hest. I looked at the list, and there were a dozen packs. I was so pissed off, I didn't even answer. I took the list and went back into the kitchen. After everyone ate and left their mess on the table, I cleaned up, did the dishes, put the dishes away, and went to my room. I waited for midnight so I could go to the pond and get washed. I was not looking forward to it, but I needed to get Ash's smell off my body. I grabbed my towel, clean shirt, underwear, and leggings, and went to the pond when the rest of the packhouse was asleep, This was only the time I could get out of the house, and since the pond was part of the territory, I wasn't breaking any rules by coming here. When I got here, I realized that it was officially my birthday. I was officially 18. I stared at the waxing gibbous moon and prayed that my family was watching over me. I've contemplated suicide multiple times, but I could never go through with it. Because if I did, that would be me giving up and being a quitter. I was the furthest thing from being a quitter, and my parents raised me better than that, or at least from what I can remember. I felt a stray tear fall down my cheek, and I quickly wiped it away. I put my clean clothes and towel on the boulder at the edge of the pond and PPED down out of my dirty clothes that reeked of Kale Patterson. I got into the water and immediately shivered from the icy temperature. Luckily, as a werewolf, I wouldn't get sick or frostbite, but that didn't mean I didn't feel how cold it was. I dunked my hair and washed my body with the single bar of soap I was given every month to stay semi-clean. Once I felt sufficient that I didn't smell like kale anymore, I dunked my body once more and quickly rinsed off. Once I knew there was no more soap residue in my hair, I wringed my hair out, threw it into a bun, and dried off. I put on my fresh clothes that smelled like a summer breeze, just like the way it smelled when the summer winds blew across the lake at my old pack house. When I was fully changed, I made my way back to the pack house. I threw my old clothes into the laundry basket and started a load before going to bed. When I got to my room, I took out my hair, and let it air dry. I laid down on my little cot, pulled up my quilted blanket, and closed my eyes to sleep, but before I could, I heard a voice. "Hello, Saren. Who is this?" "My name is Callie, I am your wolf." "Hello, Callie, it is a pleasure to finally meet you." "I am sorry." "For what?" "For the pain and suffering you have been through. I have been researching your memories, and it pains me to see how much heartache you have endured. There's nothing that can be done about it. But we have alpha blood. And that will stay between us, for the time being." "Saren?" "Yes, Callie. We will get through this. Together. I am here for you now." "Thank you. It's nice to know that I have at least one true friend in my life now. We are more than friends, we are family." I smiled at her words and drifted off to sleep. I finally had my wolf, and now it was time to take control of my life. But first, I had to get through this alpha ceremony for Ash. Blah. When I woke up the next morning, it was barely dawn, but I had to get ready and get breakfast prepared. I sat up in my cot and realized how SHTTY today was actually going to be. So much for enjoying my birthday. I got up, threw my hair into a high ponytail, and made my way to the guest bathroom to wash my face and brush my teeth. I looked in the mirror at the now adult woman looking at me, and I smiled. I finally made it to adulthood, even though I wouldn't be able to celebrate it. After doing my morning business, I put my things away back into my room and then went to the kitchen. On the way there, I caught the scent of something very aromatic and enticing. What was this amazing smell? I thought to myself. I followed the scent, and it led me upstairs to Ash's room on the 4th floor. I stared at the door, and the only thought that came to my mind was utter disgust. Ash is my mate. Why would the moon goddess do something so cruel? I hated this guy, I hated him, his parents, this whole pack. There was no time like the present. I was already prepared to be rejected and the temporary heartache that would come with it, but I knew that I would be okay. Callie and I would be okay. I took a deep breath and was about to knock on the door when I could hear M0ANING and giggling from the inside. Kale had another she-wolf in there with him. It was barely sun up, and he was already some slut from the pack. I gathered myself and prepared for the sigh of n-ached bodies, and knocked on the door. "Who is it?" I heard his whiny voice. "It's Saren." "Ugh. Go away tch. I heard the slut he was ing. "Shut up and," he yelled at her. "Come in, Saren," he said. I took another deep breath and opened the door. Chapter 2. Ash's POV. "That's right," I tell my next victim. She giggles and M0ANS. This one knew what she was doing. Just then, there was a knock on my door. "Who is it?" I call out without even thinking. "It's Saren." My thoughts are clouded when I hear that name. Just then, I caught her scent from beyond the door. It was wonderful. She smelled like roses. I never thought the smell of roses could be this sweet. Her scent made my DCK hard, and I was sure the Omega thought it was because of her mouth. "Ugh! Go away tch, the Omega shouted. "Shut up!" I tell her and shove her head back down. Why couldn't they ever listen when I tell them to never speak? I compose myself and lay back, letting the Omega do her thing. "Come in, Saren." After a moment, the door opened, and her scent hit me like a ton of bricks. Her face, when she saw what was happening, was one of disgust and irritation. "What do you want?" I asked, trying not to be turned on by her presence. "You know why I'm here," she said with no emotion. I smirk, so she feels that I am her mate as well. Kano was stirring in my mind, telling me to claim her and mark her, but I wasn't going to. I was going to go through with my plan, and I was going to reject Saren. As much as I wanted to do it first thing today at breakfast, I knew that if I pushed it off, I would change my mind. "You, whatever your name is, get out," I tell the Omega. She lifted her head in shock. "What? You heard me, get out." "Ugh," she grunted and got out, slamming the door behind her. Saren looked at the door and then back at me. She was so beautiful. No, I can't think like this. I need to reject her and fast. "So, I guess you feel it too, hey?" I asked her while standing up, fully n.ud and fully e.rext, referring to the mate bond. She didn't even flinch at the fact I was in front of her. "Yes." "Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but if you came here thinking I was going to accept you as my mate, you're dead wrong." She just looked at me with gorgeous brown eyes. But something was off, there was no hurt in her eyes. There were no feelings, at all. This shouldn't be bothering me, but it does. I shook the thought away. I, Cale Patterson, future alpha of the Blood Moon Pack, hereby reject you, Saren Calloway, as my mate, I say, trying to hide the remorse in my voice. She looked up at me and smirked. Why was she smirking? "Thank you," she replied. "What? Thank you," she repeated. "You have no idea how happy it makes me that you're rejecting me right now. You're saving me the misery of being tied to you at the HP because of the stupid mate bond, and the agony of having to be the Luna of this pack of misfits, mutts, and murderers," she said with venom in her voice. Why was she not hurting? Why were her words hurting me? "Saren, what are you?" "I, Saren Calloway, daughter of the late Alpha Gideon Calloway of the Iron Hollow Pack, hereby accept your rejection." Her acceptance hit me like a freight train. The pain of our bond breaking knocked the wind out of me, and I fell back onto the bed. But she wasn't hurting, she was fine. She was the daughter of an alpha, she's an alpha by blood. I felt tears in my eyes, my heart was breaking, and hers wasn't. Why was I the one who was hurting? Kano howled in sorrow in my head. He was whimpering. My wolf, my alpha wolf was whimpering like a little puppy at the loss of his mate. Saren shook her head and left my room. She was gone. That was it, my mate was gone. I wanted to hurt her, and break her, but she broke me instead. I told you not to reject her. Kano ferociously growled. You never said she was an alpha. That shouldn't matter. Her blood and her rank shouldn't matter. We were her mate. We were supposed to love her, cherish her, and protect her. Before I could say anything to him, he cut me off. He put up his own block. I didn't even know our wolf counterpart could do that. I tried to reach him but couldn't. My own wolf was giving me the silent treatment. Saren's POV. After accepting his rejection, I felt liberated. I made my way back to the kitchen and got busy making breakfast. I was running about 10 minutes behind, but that wasn't a big deal. As I was making breakfast, I could feel Callie whimpering in the back of my mind. Callie, I'm sorry. It's not your fault, he rejected us first. But I accepted his rejection without a fight, and I know that it caused you pain. Not as much as you think though. Honestly, it hurts, but something tells me it was meant to be. Why would the moon goddess pair me like him? I don't know, but the mother has her ways and her reasons. Let's just see where this leads us. You do know that after this weekend, we're on our own, right? I can't, no, I won't live here anymore. I know. I support you. I smiled again at her response. Callie was super chill, and laid back, like me. After I made breakfast and set it out on the island buffet style with eggs, ham, sausage, toast, and hash browns, I went to my room to work on the invitations for Ash's alpha ceremony this coming Saturday. Luckily, the invitations were already made, I just had to write out all of the names of the packs being invited and send them out via Werewolf interpostal mail. When I finished with those, I went back to the kitchen, and soon as I did, everyone turned around and stared at me. I saw Kale and his eyes were filled with hurt. Good, I thought to myself. He thought that I would be hurt by his rejection, but it ended up backfiring, and I was more than certain that my declaration as an alpha's daughter was the biggest slap to the face. Saren, Eric called out. I let out a big sigh and walked over to him. Yes. Did you send out the invites? I just finished, they should be received by all the packs within the next 24 hours, I replied as genuinely as I could. Good, since it's your birthday, and you haven't messed up anything yet, feel free to have one serving size of everything. Thank you, I replied sincerely. At least I wasn't going to starve on my birthday. I went to the island and grabbed my plate. It was as a small child's plate, but it worked. I took 1 scoop of eggs, 1 sausage patty, 1 slice of ham, and 1 scoop of hash browns, and 1 bottled water. I went back to my room and ate my breakfast in peace. I already knew that this would be my only meal today, so I figured I would try and savor it the best I could. I took small bits of everything and chewed at least 15 to 20 times per bite to try and make it last. This somehow made it seem like I had more than I actually did. As I was eating, I couldn't help the tears that formed in my eyes. Here I was, 8 hours into my 18th birthday, and I was already rejected by my mate. The thought of having a mate to love, cherish, and protect me was out the window now. I had no choice but to accept my fate, that after Saturday night, I would officially be a rogue. 3 days later. Get out of my way! Ash's sister Emma screamed, shoving me to the ground. She was 22 years old and an unmated herself, so she was being even a bigger than normal. She actually didn't even live in the pack house anymore, she lived on her own in one of the small houses within the territory. She was only here for the ceremony, and not even because she wanted to congratulate Ash, she was hoping to meet her mate. The rumor quickly spread that a few of the alphas and betas that were going to be in attendance were also unmated. The unmated she-wolves in this pack were practically already planning their future weddings and Luna ceremonies. I just gagged at their ridiculous imaginations. In addition to the unmated alphas and betas, those that were mated and were older were apparently bringing some of their unmated daughters with them to see if they would be the mates to Ash. Unbeknownst them, Kale already had a mate, whom he rejected. Me. It was going to be pretty funny to see all of them leave completely empty-handed. Although, who knows, maybe the moon goddess will give him a second chance. Now that would be something I would pay to see. I got up from the floor, and just walked away from her. I didn't want to hear her belly aching and high-pitched screams all night. I went back to the kitchen and finalized the food preparations for the ceremony. I was getting a migraine from the constant go-away high-pitched screams from the other Omegas in the house, and the get-to-work high-pitched screams coming from Nicole. I secretly hoped that I would be able to sit in my room during the ceremony, but I already knew that wasn't going to happen. I was going to be forced to serve a crowd of close to 400. Just one more night? I thought to myself. Yeah, just one more night. Unknown POV. I was sitting the back of car with my beta Kendrick at the driver's seat. We were on our way to the Blood Moon Pack territory to be in attendance for the transfer of the Alpha TLE to Eric's son, Ash. I was wondering when that little punk would finally become Alpha. I hated this pack with a passion, but we weren't necessarily rivals, yet. The way Eric ran his pack was ridiculous. He treated his pack members like SHT, and his kids were just spoiled B.rats. I couldn't wait to put them on our rival list. Once the transfer of the Alpha TLE was complete, the treaty my dad had with Eric would end, and I would be able to break the neutral pact we had with them. I wanted nothing to do with a pack that slaughtered packs for power and money. The last pack he took over was apparently the Iron Hollow pack a little over 8 years ago. I had just taken over as alpha of my pack, and the news spread like wildfire. My dad regretted having had entered into a neutral pact with them, but he did it because at the time, we were a weaker pack, and I wasn't old enough to take over yet. Once I did though, I grew our pack to almost triple its size. And I did it the right way. By making allies, taking in non-violent rogues who had nowhere else to turn, and training the men and women of our pack to be fighters, trackers, and hunters. I was now the alpha of the largest pack in the central United States, and my name was known by all wolves. Hey, get your head out of the clouds, and get out of the car, Kendrick said, pulling me out of my thoughts. Hey, get your head out of the clouds, and get out of the car, Kendrick said, pulling me out of my thoughts. You, Kendrick, I muttered, getting out of the car. Even though Kendrick was my beta and my best friend, I sometimes wondered if I made a mistake making him my beta. Sarens P.ov. As I was running around getting the last-minute preparations in order, people were bustling around the pack house like chickens with their heads cut off. The alphas and betas of the other packs were starting to arrive, and all the unmated wolves were going insane. This was supposed to be a ceremony for Kale gaining his Alpha TLE from Eric, but no one really cared. They wanted it to be all about them. Even his own sister could care less that her brother was becoming the new Alpha. Little by little, small crowds of guests and pack members were getting seated out in the backyard for the ceremony to begin. I was serving drinks to the tables and were getting more than enough dirty looks from pack members. I wasn't even doing anything other than working, but they felt the need to stare down at me. Whatever, just a few more hours, and I would be done with this SHT. Hey, you're pretty hot for an Omega, someone I don't know said. I could sense that he was ranked, but not an Alpha. A Beta perhaps. Thank you, I said without certainty. When do you get off of work? I'd like to tap, he said, trying to contain his laughter. Sorry, but I'm underage. I doubt you want to be labeled as a pedophile. I lie straight through my teeth. I pour his wine and walk away. I can hear him grumbling at the thought of hitting on a minor. For a ranked wolf, he was pretty stupid. My scent alone would show that I'm not underage. Men are stupid. I couldn't wait to get out of here. Just a few more hours to go. As the ceremony got underway, Eric, Ash, and an elder were on the platform. Eric rescinded his TLE as Alpha and passed it on to Ash. The elder then did the whole speech about Kale being the best Alpha that he could be, to be fair, just, and loving, and blah blah blah. The elder cut Ash's palm, drawing blood into the gold chalice. After Kale was officially announced Alpha, everyone was free to mingle and eat. That was my cue to leave and hide out in my room. As I snuck away from the backyard and through the living room, I felt someone grab my arm and turn me to face them. Before I could even see who it was, I felt a sharp pain across my cheek. It was so sudden, and the force was so strong, I fell to the ground. After a minute of trying to get my brain to focus, I looked up and saw Emma. "What?" was all I could say. "You sneaky little! Are you trying to get me sick?" she shrieked. "What are you talking about?" I asked from the floor. "There's cheese in the enchiladas. You know well I am lactose intolerant." "Seriously?" She was blaming me for there being cheese in the enchiladas. "Are you kidding me right now?" "I didn't make the menu, Emma, your mom did." I spat. "And you're a idiot." "What?" she screamed. "Enchiladas are made with cheese, it's called for in the recipe. Look it up on Google." I stood up to my feet. "The fact that you don't know that makes you even dumber than you look." Her face was priceless. I already knew I would end up getting beaten, but pressing her buttons was kind of fun. "And no one told you to eat them, dumb." That last comment earned me another slap, and this time, it was from Nicole. "How dare you talk to my daughter that way," she growled. It wasn't even really a growl, it was more like a grunt or a burp. "Mom," she said. "You're the one who ordered the cheese enchiladas," Emma said. "I am. Mom. I'm lactose intolerant." "Saran. Why didn't you remind me that Emma was lactose intolerant?" "It's not my job to remind you what your child is allergic or intolerant to. If you can't remember that, then you're one sorry excuse of a mother." Me and my big mouth got me slapped, not once, not twice, but 3 times. The third slap knocked me the ground again, and I felt a kick to my abdomen, which knocked the wind out of me. "Don't you ever kick. Ever. Punch to the face. Ever. Slap again. Ever. Kick to the C.Hest. Talk to me that way again." Nicole shrieked in her high-pitched mousy voice and kicked my face with the ball of her foot. "You," I muttered. Yes, I didn't know when to stay down. "So, sue me." I saw her foot coming at my face again, when a massive roar shook the entire house and stopped her dead in her tracks. I had no idea what it was or who it was, but a part of me was just glad it happened. I could feel myself going in and out of consciousness when the faint scent of fresh rain flooded my senses. Then I heard a very soothing, yet very pissed-off voice. Get away from my mate. Did he say, mate? Chapter 3. Unknown POV. After the ceremony took place, we all applauded for Ash, but mine was more forced because I could honestly care less about this SHT. When we were dismissed to mingle and eat, Kendrick went straight for the food, while I just kind of walked around. I had to admit, there were pretty girls here, but none that actually interested me. I briefly spoke with some of the other alphas in attendance, at least the ones I was on good terms with. They were older and wiser and gave lots of great advice. They brought their unmated daughters with them, hoping they would find their mates. I thought this was supposed to be an alpha ceremony, not speed dating. I shook my head and mentally rolled my eyes. I knew for a fact that they were hoping I would be mated to one of their girls, but that was not happening. At least not if the moon goddess had anything to say about it. I walked around some more and was being eyed by several she-wolves. I smiled at them, but that was all I did. I could hear their disappointments, but I honestly didn't care. I wasn't here to pick up any random girl, unlike Kendrick, who already had 2 girls leaning all over him. I sent him a quick mind link. You better make sure those girls are of age, Ken. I don't need you up by sleeping with a minor. Relax, I already made sure. They showed me their canines and claws. I'm about to take these 2 hotties up to my guest room. You're sick. Don't knock it until you try it. I was about to respond when a mouth-watering scent hit me. My wolf blade started to stir and prance in my mind. Mate. He said. What? Mate. He repeated. I immediately followed the scent. It was so heavenly, so enticing, so inviting, and so serene. Even though Blade was going crazy, the scent was also very calming. It was very herbal and refreshing, it smelled like freshly brewed chamomile tea. I followed the scent that made me gulp the saliva forming in my mouth. I was led across the courtyard, and into the pack house where the smell of my mate got stronger and stronger, but something was strange. Her smell was off, it started to smell like blood. I looked beyond the living room and saw the most beautiful girl, but what I saw was not making me happy. It was making me angry, and Blade was surfacing at the sight before our eyes. Our mate was being beaten, by the former Luna of the Blood Moon Pack, and another woman who looked to be around her late teens to early 20s. Just as her foot was about to make contact with my mate's face, Blade let out a ferocious roar, stopping her dead in her tracks, and shaking the entire pack house. Get away from my mate! I boomed in my alpha tone. Both of them turned around and were in shock. My outburst caused Kendrick to be by my side within a matter of seconds. I used my wolf speed and shoved both women out of the way, completely knocking them over. Nicole fell, PPED over the chair, and the other girl was slammed into the wall. I could care less if they were injured. I only cared about my mate. Alpha, talk to me, Kendrick said. Mate, I whispered to him. Oh. Get me a doctor. I roared. Kendrick took off to find the pack doctor, that's assuming this sorry excuse of a pack even had one. I lifted my mate into my arms, and she is completely unconscious. I made sure to be as gentle as possible, as I could feel that some of her bones were possibly broken. Alpha, my name is Dr. Jacobs, a man his 50s or 60s said running up to me. Please follow me to the clinic. I follow him, trying my hardest to make it a smooth trip for my mate. Even though she is bloodied and beaten, I can still see her beautiful features. Alpha, please lay her down, and allow me to look over her. I do as he says, and he starts his examination. I see him lift her shirt, and a part of me wants to stop him where he stands for even thinking of looking under there, but I know that he has to do it, so I try and poise myself. When I see the bruising that's already formed, a growl escapes from within, and the doctor immediately stops in fear. "Doctor, don't mind him, please continue," Kendrick says, coming into the clinic. The doctor continues his examination. "Alpha, I need to get X-rays done, please excuse me," he wheels my mate out of the room, and down the hall. I wait patiently for him to come back. About 20 minutes later, he wheels her back in. "How bad is it?" I asked him. "It's not as bad as it seems," he says while putting the images of her X-rays on the board. "Thankfully, only one rib appears to be fractured here," he says, pointing at the image. "I also did a quick ultrasound, and there is no internal bleeding in her abdomen or her head. She may wake up with a concussion, but overall, she should fully heal within 48 hours, I let out a sigh of relief. "I will put on her an 4 drip with some morphine to help with the pain." "Thank you," he inserts the 4 into the back of her hand and injects the tubing with a syringe full of morphine. "Alpha, while she rests, may I speak with you in private please?" the doctor requests. "Whatever needs to be said can be said in front of my beta," I tell him sternly. "Very well," he goes and closes the door. He comes back and sits on the chair next to my mate's bed. "Alpha, while looking over her X-rays, I saw multiple remodeled fractures, and breaks in most of her bones." "What?" "I know her very well, and I know that this is not the first time she has been beaten, this is just the first time she's ever been given medical attention." "Are you telling me that my mate has suffered multiple injuries without medical attention?" "Yes, I am." "She's a pack member." "What kind of bullshit is that?" Kendrick exclaimed. "Technically, she is not a pack member," the doctor said. "Come again." "She's not a pack member. She was orphaned when she was about 10, and was brought to the pack, and was turned into the pack house slave." "Slave?" both Kendrick and I growl. "Where does she come from? Where is her family?" I ask, trying to hold back my anger. "I don't know, I have only been the doctor now for about 6 years, she was already here when I arrived. She was about 12 when I met her, and she was already covered in bruises, and I could tell she had some injuries that weren't quite healed." "Were the beatings Alpha Eric's doing?" I asked. "It was everyone's doing. Even the lowest ranked Omegas have beat her, and it was mostly because she would talk back, or give attitude." "You've witnessed this?" Kendrick asked. "No, but people in this pack house talk, and pissed off ones talk even louder." I could feel my anger getting the best of me, and Blade wanted to surface again. I had to put so much effort into keeping him back. "Be honest me with doctor, have you ever put your hands on her?" I grumbled. "No, I would never harm a child. I am a doctor, and it is my duty to treat everyone with kindness and respect. However, when it came to this poor child, I was not allowed to." "Not allowed? Are you joking me right now?" Kendrick scoffed. "I'm sorry Beta, but I am not. The Alpha had prohibited me from ever giving her medical attention. I know of her story, but I honestly don't know her name. She's not even in the pack database." "What do you know about her?" I asked. "Only that she has a fighting spirit, but a broken soul, and she is young. My understanding from rumors is that her birthday was 3 days ago, she just turned 18. "What? She just gained her wolf," Kendrick said, looking at her with pity. "Please, Alpha, do not hurt her. I think she has been through enough pain in her short life. I would never, she is my mate, my future, my Luna, and my one true love. I will mend her broken soul." The moon goddess gave me a precious gift, and I plan to cherish that gift until the day I die. The doctor nods his head and smiles. I'm going to take a blood sample so I can run a few tests on her. Since she has never had medical attention, I think it would be best to do a blood panel to see if she needs anything additional. I nod my head. He takes a few samples of blood, and then leaves the room. Kendrick and I look at each other, and then back at my mate. I wonder what happened to her, Kendrick says softly. I'm sure that she will tell us when she is ready, but for now, let's just watch over her until she wakes up. No problem. Even if Kendrick was planning on having a threesome, he took his duties as my beta more seriously, and always vowed to put me and his Luna first. Did you want me to get another bed rolled up in here? No, I'm going to sleep next to her, I tell him. I get up from the couch we were sitting on, and gently climb into the bed with my mate. I place my arm under her shoulders, and hold her frail body close, but not tight. I hoped that my scent would give her some peace and tranquility while she healed. Saren's POV. I could feel my head throbbing. It felt like I was run over by a stampede of rhinos. As I tried to gather my thoughts, I remembered getting into an argument with Emma about enchiladas, calling Nicole an unfit mother, and her trying to beat me into submission. I also started to recall the scent of fresh rain. Suddenly, that smell flooded my senses again. I opened my eyes and saw I was in a very unfamiliar room. I looked to my right and saw some sort of weird machine, and it was beeping. I looked to my left and saw a couch. I looked down at my right hand, and there was a needle inside my vein. I sat up as slowly as I could, still feeling the aftermath of Nicole's beating. I grunted while sitting up and trying to balance myself. I looked at my surroundings again and realized that I was in a hospital of some sort. Was this the PAC clinic? Why was I in the PAC clinic? Why does it smell like fresh rain in here? Why was it making me feel happy? Mate. Callie said. What? We don't have a mate. We do now. What in the world was she talking about? Perhaps the kick to my head affected her memory too or was playing tricks on her. I caught a glimpse of the clock and saw it was 2 hours past breakfast. T. I shouted. I reached over and pulled the needle out of hand, which caused the machine to start beeping uncontrollably. I stood to my feet, even though it was very painful to do so, and rushed out of the room. I had no idea where I was since I had never been to the clinic before. I stopped a nurse walking by who looked at me blankly. I'm sorry, but which way back to the pack house? Through those doors, she said and pointed behind me. Thank you. I grabbed my side, where Nicole had kicked me, and just hobbled back to the pack house. As much I wanted to be out of here, by tonight, I don't think I could with these injuries. When I made it through the house and into the kitchen, I was immediately pulled by the hair and slapped across the face. So, you decided to sleep in? What makes you think you could get away with the SHT you pulled last night? Emma spat. God, this TCH was still in the house? Saren, you're late. Eric shouted from the middle of the table. Hey? Oh, that's right, he's not the alpha anymore. Where the hell was Ash? He wasn't at the head of the table. I'm sorry, I woke up in the clinic, and I have no idea how I got there. Are you trying to make us starve? Nicole's yelled with her shrilling voice breaking the sound barrier. Ugh, I don't know how the hell Eric puts up with her, let alone Emma and her own nails on a chalkboard voice. Please give me 20 minutes, and will I have breakfast made? 20 minutes? You're asking for 20 minutes when we should have been fed over 2 hours ago. Emma screamed at the top of her lungs. Would you rather I not make anything at all then? I sneered. Dad! Do something about this! Emma shouted. Ah, can't stand up for yourself that you have to ask dear old daddy to come and save you? And you call yourself an alpha's daughter? Ah! She screamed and raised her hand to slap me again, but someone caught it. I could have sworn you were told to keep your hands off of her, some really good-looking guy said to Emma. Beta Kendrick, keep your hands off of my daughter! Eric shouted. As long your daughter keeps her hands off of the Luna, did he just call me Luna? Luna! I heard Ash's revolting voice come from the kitchen entrance. He had his arm around some Omega. Oh, good morning Alpha Ash, the good-looking guy, whose name I believe is Beta Kendrick said to Ash. Yes, this beautiful young lady here is the future Luna of the Blue Lake Pack. Ash's expression went dark and fast. He dropped his arm from the Omega and looked at me. Alpha Ash, I suggest you take your eyes off of the Luna unless you want to deal with my Alpha, who is already pissed off as it is. I watched as Kale dropped his eyes. Even though this guy was a beta, something about him just screamed high level. Who was the Alpha to the Blue Lake Pack? And why did this beta say that I'm the future Luna? Saran! Breakfast isn't going to make itself! Nicole screamed. I was about to turn around and grab ingredients out of the fridge when the beta stopped me. Sorry, Luna, but the Alpha would like you back in bed to rest. This pack can find someone else to make their food. Now that you've been claimed by the Alpha of the Blue Lake Pack, there's no need for you to work anymore, he said with a dashing smile. Beta Kendrick, you can't just take her! Eric shouted. Actually, I can, because I know for a fact that she's not even a pack member of this pack, so, you have no legal claim over her, he replied with such a serious tone and then smiled back at me. I just stared blankly and blinked in utter confusion. My head was starting to hurt even more now. Come, Luna, he said and picked me up bridal style. Kale growled at him, but it didn't faze him. Kendrick just kept walking. After a minute or so, we were back at the clinic, and he gently placed me down on the bed. I saw his eyes glaze over, which meant he was mind-linking someone, but who? A few minutes later, the scent of fresh rain hit me again, and the hunkiest wolf I had ever seen walked in with another older gentleman. My eyes bulged out of my head when I saw this guy. He was easily over 6 feet tall, he had light brown hair that was sleeked back, and sides of his head were shaved clean. He was wearing a simple white V-neck t-shirt and some blue jeans. His super muscular right arm was covered in tattoos, and I could see his C.Hest had some as well. His eyes were teal-colored, both of his ears were pierced, and he had some facial hair on his chin. His nose was very prominent, his cheekbones were perfectly square, and his L.P.S. were plump. This man was nothing short of beautiful. Mate! Callie screamed. She was howling in excitement. I just watched as he came around to the other side of the bed. The fresh rain scent was coming from him, and it was strong. My throat became dry while I looking at him. He sat down in the chair next to my bed. I couldn't take my eyes off of him. Who was this gorgeous man? He's our mate, stupid. Don't call me stupid, Callie. Would the moon goddess really give me a second chance like this? There was no way, this guy, this hunk of a man was my second chance? Could he? How are you feeling? The older man asked me, tearing me away from my thoughts. I'm a little sore, and my throat is dry, I tell him. You seem to have healed quite nicely, but you shouldn't wander around on your own just yet. I understand you went to go do chores, however, you need rest, and as the pack doctor, I'm ordering it," he cut me off. "But I'm not allowed." "You are now," he cut me off again. "I will have a nurse bring you some ice water," I just nodded. What the hell was going on? "I also went over your blood work, and it appears that you are severely anemic. I am going to give an iron injection, potassium, and vitamin B1 too. I also suggest that once you are released, you go stand in the sun for about 30 minutes a day to get some vitamin D." I nodded again, and he gave me a few shots before leaving. "Kendrick. Alpha. Leave us." "Sure thing," he said and got up. "Luna," he bowed his head and walked out of the room. I looked back at the godlike man sitting next to me. What is going on here? Why does he keep calling me Luna? I asked the stranger. "Because you are his Luna, he's just being respectful," he replied. Oh my god, that voice, it's the soothing voice from last night. "Who are you?" I ask him. "My name is Jasper Valencia, I'm the Alpha of the Blue Lake Pack," he replied and took my hand. I immediately felt a jolt of electricity shoot up my arm, but it wasn't painful, it was sensual and amazing. "What's your name?" "Saren Calloway, but I go by Saren for short." "Did you say Calloway?" I nod my head. "Any relation to Gideon Calloway?" "He was my father." "How do you know him?" Jasper let out a short sigh. "He was a friend of my father's when my father was Alpha. We heard about what happened to your pack, and that Blood Moon was responsible for it. We had no idea that there were any survivors. I was hidden away during the fight, and was found by Eric when they were clearing the house." "Do they know that you're an Alpha's daughter?" I shook my head. "Only Kale knows." "How does Kale know?" "Because I had to use my TLE when I accepted his rejection." "Wait, are you saying that you were Ash's mate?" I nod. "I found out the morning of my birthday. He rejected me immediately, and I accepted without incident. I didn't want to be his mate. I refused to be the Luna this pack of murderers. No wonder he was pissed when Kendrick brought you back to me." "I don't understand, why are you being so kind to me? You don't even know me." "I know that you are my mate, and apparently, I am your second chance," he said and kissed the back of my hand. I gasped softly at the tingling sensation it gave me. I didn't feel like this with Ash. I honestly couldn't wait to be rejected by him, but this guy was different. "Alpha Jasper." "It's just Jasper, dearest, you don't have to be formal with me." "Jasper, I don't know if I can do this." "Do what, beautiful?" I immediately blushed. "I'm not worthy of being a Luna, let alone yours. I'm broken, and am technically a rogue." "Well, that's not up to you to decide. It's the moon goddess. She gave you to me, and I plan on keeping you. So, don't even think about rejecting me, that is unless of course, you want me to die of heartbreak," he smiled. What the hell? Did he just use reverse psychology on me? He smiled again. "Saren, my dearest, will you at least give me the chance to earn your trust and your love?" he asked with the utmost sincerity. I looked into his eyes, and all I could see was desire and him pleading. He hasn't done anything to hurt me, and I can already tell he's a better Alpha than Kale will ever be. "Yes, I do that," he smiled and kissed the back of my hand again. The tingling feeling came back, my heart started to race, and my core started to burn up. For a split second, I wished the back of my hand were my LPS. Was this the mate bond? Chapter 4. Ash's POV. I sat in my office, rubbing my face profusely up and down my face. I couldn't believe it. Saren was given a second chance, and on the night of Alpha ceremony no less. The moon goddess had some sick and cruel way of punishing me. I saw what happened to her last night, but I didn't stop it. I had no reason to, I had rejected her. She was nothing to me, but I couldn't help but feel anger towards my mother and sister for hurting her that way. I wanted to stop them, but something held me back. Was it because she was no longer my mate? But, if that's the case, then why did I want to stop them anyway? Hearing that Saren was now mated to none other than Jasper Valencia, Alpha of the Blue Lake Pack, made my blood boil. Why? Of all wolves in the world, why did the moon goddess give Saren to him? Saren, I said her name softly to myself. My beautiful. Why can't I get her out of my head? Why did I care? She was nothing, well, at least I thought she was nothing. For the last 8 years, Saren had been keeping a secret, and one of severe magnitude. She was an alpha's daughter, and not just any alpha. The alpha of the Iron Hollow Pack, the one my father destroyed. My father was the one who brought Saren into our home. I remember like it was yesterday. Saren, so small and fragile, she covered in soot and soil from the downfall of her pack. I remember when my father asked for her name, and she said it was Saren Calloway, but she liked to go by Saren. I remember at the time, I thought she was cute, and like a walking talking doll. I wanted to be her friend, but my father told me not to. That she was going to be the pack house slave because she was a rogue. Even at the tender age of 10, we were taught that rogues were filthy and disgusting, so I kept my distance. But over the years, she grew to be more beautiful than anyone could have comprehended. That's why all the she-wolves despised her. Even mated male wolves would have their eye on her. Just waiting for her to turn 18, and all the females beat on her constantly. She was never allowed to have medical attention, so she would be left to heal on her own. I felt pity for her, I really did, but as the future alpha of this pack, I had to keep my distance, because that is what I taught. Rogues are dirty, filthy, and disgusting. So why did the moon goddess mate me with her? Because she was an alpha by blood. She wasn't just some rogue my father picked up after the battle, she was the living and breathing heir to the Iron Hollow Pack, and I threw her away without a second thought. Now, what was supposed to have been mine was now in the arms of another. The mere thought of Valencia touching Saren makes Kano stir in anger. He still hasn't spoken to me since the morning we rejected her. Even though the bond is broken, we both still long for her. Even with all she-wolves that are visiting our pack, I still have to imagine it's Saren writhing underneath me in order for me to get any kind of gratification. I couldn't take it anymore, I needed to find a way to reverse the rejection, and take back what rightfully was mine in the first place. I loved Saren, I knew from the day I turned 18 and figured out she was my mate that I loved her. But I let my FKED up judgment and twisted upbringing allow me to reject her on sight, and on her birthday of all days. I need to find my father and an elder and speak to them about this. I quickly mind-linked him. Dad. Ash, what is it, son? I need you and Elder Scott to come to my office, please. We will be right there. I sat back and waited for them to come. There had to be a way out of this. I wanted Saren back, and I didn't care what anyone said. I need to stop Valencia from claiming what was mine. A few minutes after being deep in thought, my father and Elder Scott came in. Son. Alpha, they both bowed. Please, come in, I tell them. They both and sit in the chairs opposite my desk. What's going on, Ash? My father asked. Dad, I found my mate. That's great, son, he exclaimed. Who is it? Is it one of the girls from the visiting packs? No. Then is it a member of our pack? Kind of. Ash, stop be cryptic and tell us. It's Saren. A dead silence took over the room. I looked at both of them, and they both stared at me blankly. Dad, did you hear me? I heard you, son, he replied and paused for a moment. Please tell me that this is some kind of sick joke. It's not. Why on earth would the moon goddess pair our alpha with a rogue? Elder Scott asked. Son, tell me you rejected her. I did. You, okay then, crisis averted, he said. No dad, crisis not averted, I tell him sternly. I don't understand. Dad, do you know what Saren's full name is? Saren Calloway. Wrong. Her full name is Saren Calloway. Alpha, did you say her surname is Calloway? I did. She used to her full title to accept my rejection. Imagine my surprise when she said that she's an Alpha's daughter, the look on both of their faces were priceless. My goddess, Saren is the daughter of Gideon Calloway, Elder Scott said. That little asterisk, my father shouted. She's been keeping her ident, a secret this whole time. What did you expect? I ask in a condescending tone. Hest rated the slaughter of her entire pack when she was 10 years old. Old enough to know what was happening, old enough to know her ident, and old enough to know to hide it. I stood up from my chair and went to the couch. Saren hid her pedigree on purpose, because of you, Mom, Emma, and every other in this pack that's inged up her life. I lost out on the perfect mate. Scott, can we fix this? My dad suddenly asked. I knew telling him that Saren was an alpha by blood he would try and fix this. Well, that all depends on if she has found a second chance mate or not. Our understanding is that she has. The alpha of Blue Lake, my father answered. Ah, Alpha Jasper Valencia, he said rubbing his chin. Well, this may be a problem then. Why, we both ask. Alpha Jasper has been longing for a mate for as long as anyone can remember. He is 26 and has one of the largest packs in the central United States. If he claims Saren, and she accepts his claim, it's too late. No. I want Saren. I love her. My outburst turned the atmosphere really cold and silent. I just admitted to loving the slave of the pack house. Son, what did you just say? S.H.T. Jasper's POV. I was sitting in the clinic room next to Saren as she got some much-needed sleep. Kendrick was keeping watch at the door making sure that no one other than Dr. Jacobs came to check on her. I didn't trust anyone in this pack to treat her, especially, not after all the awful S.H.T. they had put her through. A few times throughout the day, Emma, Eric's daughter, tried to peek through. But Kendrick blocked her path. I wasn't sure if she was coming to harass Saren more or to get a glimpse of me. Kendrick had told me what Emma did to Saren earlier in the morning. The fact that she had the nerve to hit Saren again even though she was still recovering from the assault she and her mother inflicted the night before. Typical of a self-ent, pled b.rat. I heard Saren stir. I inched to the edge of my seat, to make sure she wasn't uncomfortable or in pain. She smacked her L.P.S. a few times, and moved her head around, before opening her eyes. Hey, dearest, did you sleep well? I asked her. She gave me a small smile and nodded. How long have I been asleep? She softly asked. About 4 hours. Oh wow, that's it, she asked staring up at the ceiling. That was probably the best 4 hours of sleep I've ever had in my life. I just looked at her blankly as she tried to sit up. I got up and support her back with my arm. Thank you. You're welcome. This bed is so comfortable, she said, patting the side of the clinic bed. You think that bed is comfortable? It's better than the SHT I've been sleeping on for the last 8 years. I furrowed my brows at her comment. Saren, do you not have a bed? I have a cot. A what? A cot, she wrinkled her nose. Think of it as a small trampoline with no springs, and is supported by 4 plastic legs. I still had no idea what she was talking about. I took out my phone and googled what a cot was. When I saw what it was, I scowled at the image. This thing? I asked and showed her my phone, and she nodded. I was about to say something when the doctor came in. Good afternoon, how are you feeling? He asked her. Better now that I've gotten some real sleep. That's good to hear. I'm going to do a quick physical exam, would you mind lifting your shirt? She looked over at me and paused a moment. I stood up and turned around facing the wall. I could hear her lift her shirt, and I had to keep myself calm knowing that the doctor was staring at her bare skin. It's his job, I keep telling myself, and Blade. Ah, I hear Saren's voice. I wanted to turn around to see what caused her harm, but before I could, the doctor spoke. Well, your rib area still seems to be a bit tender to the touch, but your facial wounds seem to have cleared up nicely. Even though your immune system is weak, you have strong healing capabilities, especially now that you've gained your wolf. You can turn back around, Jasper, Saren said to me. I turn around and take my seat next to her bed again. Doctor, when can Saren be released? I asked him. Oh, so your name is Saren, he said with surprise. I had forgotten he doesn't know who she is. Well, I would like to keep you one more day, but if you're feeling up for it, I can release you today. However, you would need to be on bed rest until your rib heals fully. I can do that, Saren replied. Absolutely no housework, Miss Saren, bed rest means bed rest. You can go outside for some sun because you still need the vitamin D, but nothing strenuous. Don't worry, doctor, I will make sure she is comfortable, I tell him. Very well then, Alpha, if you will come with me, we can start her release papers. I will be right back, dearest, I tell her and kisses the back of her hand. As I'm walking out the door, I turn to Kendrick. You watch her like a hawk. If even one hair on her precious head jacked up, you're going to run 20 miles in the morning for next calendar year. Yes, Alpha, he salutes and goes into the room, while I go with Dr. Jacobs. Saren's POV. After Jasper left with the doctor to get my release papers, Kendrick came in to keep me company. So, Luna. Please, can you just call me Saren? Luna is just too formal for me, right now, I tell him. Sure, if that's what you prefer, Saren, he smiles. Cool name by the way. Thank you, I reply. I like your name too, he gives me one of his dashing smiles. I get the feeling you're the class clown type. How'd you guess? You're not going to deny it. Why would I? Being the class clown makes me fun and approachable. Yeah, I guess it does, I just started to fidget with my fingers. For about a minute there was an awkward moment of silence. I got to pee, Kendrick said and got up and went into the bathroom. That was random, but then again, I don't think he had used the bathroom since he brought me back to the clinic this morning. As I waited for him to come out, I heard the most annoying voice enter the room. Looks like Sleeping Beauty is awake, Emma sneered. Seriously, what is up with this asterisk? You're not welcome here, Emma, get out, I tell her. I'm welcome wherever I see fit, really, she enunciated my name with disgust. I don't care what anyone says, you're not deserving of a mate, let alone an alpha mate as hot as Jasper Valencia. Off, Emma. I don't have the energy or patience to deal with your bullsh, T. How dare you talk to me like that, she shouted and shoved me off the clinic bed. I landed on my wrist, and I swear I think I felt it break. What is your problem, Emma? What did I ever do to you? I shouted while holding my wrist. You didn't need to do anything, Saren. I'm the alpha's daughter, I don't need a reason to treat you like trash, because that's exactly what you are. You don't deserve Jasper Valencia. You don't deserve a mate. And you think you do? Kendrick said coming out of the bathroom. Jasper is not going to be happy about this, he said looking down at me holding my wrist. He came over and quickly helped me to my feet, and back onto the bed. I watched as his eyes flashed black, and he looked up at Emma. Listen, cake face, I don't care who you think you are, but you have been warned not once, not twice, but now 3 times to keep your spray tan infested hands off of the Luna. She is not a Luna. She's a rogue. She's trash. She lower than the bacteria in this clinic. Emma shouted. Emma. I heard Eric's voice in the doorway. Why the hell won't this family leave me alone? Dad. What are you doing? I came to teach this lesson, Emma replied with a smug face. What gives you the right to do that? Are you trying to make things difficult for your brother? Eric shouted. What did Kale have to do with any of this? But Dad, you always said. Get out, Emma. Eric roared at her. She immediately scurried out of the room. Eric looked at me and Kendrick. Beta Kendrick, may I speak with Saren, alone please? No, Kendrick said. Excuse me. The answer is no. I am under strict orders to watch Saren. I'm already inked because your banshee offspring may have broken her wrist in the 30 seconds I was taking a piss, I snickered when he called Emma a banshee. If you wish to speak with the Luna, you may do so in my presence, or wait for Alpha Jasper to return. Kendrick, it's fine, I tell him while placing my hand on this forearm. But Saren. It's fine, please just wait outside the door, I give him a reassuring nod. He hesitates for a moment. I'll make sure that Jasper doesn't punish you too much. Great, so I'm still going to be punished, he mumbled and stepped outside the door. I looked at Eric who had a questionable expression on his face. Saren, how you are? He asked with absolutely no sincerity. Cut the crap, Eric, what do you want? His eyes immediately flashed back because I only referred to him by his name. That's Alpha Eric to you, he gritted. Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't that TLE belong to your sorry excuse of a son? He rotated his neck, cracking it a few times trying to control his anger. This was different. Normally, he would have smacked me by now. I just wanted to see how you were doing, he said, again, with no sincerity. Whatever, I replied and laid down in the bed cradling my wrist. Saren, is it true that you are Ash's mate? Was. What? Was, I repeat. I was, Ash's mate until he rejected me, and I accepted. Saren, Kale has come to realize what a mistake he made. He. Oh, I get it, I said cutting him off and sitting back up. Ash told you, didn't he? He told you that I'm an alpha by blood. I should have known that Eric had an ulterior motive for coming to see me, and scolding Emma. You think that scolding Emma in front me would get you on my good graces? Ha! Don't hold your breath, Eric. You're only here because you want me to reconsider Kale as my mate. Too bad, because that I will never happen, I spat. You think you have a choice, he growled. I do have a choice, especially now that I am of age. I don't have to answer to you anymore. I know the law, and I know my rights. I am an adult, and as Beta Kendrick said this morning, as a non-member of this pack, neither you nor Kale has any legal hold on me. Saren, you better think long and hard about the decision you make. Or what? Are you going to KLL me like you did my pack? Go ahead and try. I'd love to see you even attempt to KLL me. I'm an alpha by blood, which means, you can't KLL me. I spat back in his face. Saren, you are really testing my patience. What's new? I test your patience all the time. The only reason why you haven't hit me yet is that you want me to take Kale back, well, that. And you, with those final words, he lost his temper and growled in my face. He lifted his hand to hit me, but Kendrick stopped him. Eric, I believe you have overstayed your welcome. Get your hands off me, Beta. Eric said, shoving Kendrick away. He looks back at me, his eyes full of rage. This isn't over, Saren. Yet, keep telling yourself that, I sneer at him. He growls again and leaves. After a minute or two, Kendrick finally says something to me. Saren, that mouth of yours can make a sailor blush. I couldn't help but chuckle a bit. It's a bad habit, I know. I just can't seem to turn on my filter when it comes to this pack. I hate all of them, especially Eric and his family. I get it, they're pricks, and they just want you for your bloodline. I knew Kale wouldn't able to keep it a secret for long. He's completely unable to do anything for himself. Always has to turn to Daddy for support. His range of authority is just as short as his DCK. Pfft. Ha ha ha. Kendrick busted out laughing. I couldn't help but laugh with him. What's so funny? I heard Jasper ask as he came through the door. Dude, the Luna is witty, and it's awesome, Kendrick replied. Jasper smiled, but as fast it formed, it faded when he saw I was holding my wrist. What happened to your wrist? He said, coming to the bed and looking at it. I fell off the bed, I half lied. Saren, you are my mate, I can tell when you are lying. It's my fault, I went to take a quick piss, and Emma had come in. I told you to watch her like a hawk. Jasper roared. Stop, Jasper. Don't be mad at him. You can fault him for having a bladder the size of a peanut. When you got to go, you got to go. Saren, I just smiled sweetly at him, and he immediately hung his head in defeat. I guess it appears I can get him to give in to me pretty quickly. That might come in handy someday. Let me get the doctor to look at your wrist, he grumbled and left again. I looked over at Kendrick, who was glaring at me. What? My bladder is not the size of a peanut. I hadn't peed in over 12 hours, you know. Would you have rather ran 20 miles every day for the next calendar year? Touché. When the doctor came back, it turned out it was a small sprain in my wrist and nothing more. He wrapped it up for me and said it would take at least another 48 hours to heal. When I was finally released, Jasper escorted me outside of the pack house so I could some sunlight. This was probably the first time I had actually been outside when it was still daylight, and it was bright and hot, but it felt nice. The rays of the afternoon fall sun felt so good on my skin. We walked over to a small bench in the garden, and just sat there. I took in the sunlight just like the doctor ordered. 30 minutes, the doctor said. That wasn't going to be an issue. This felt nice, very, very, nice. As we were just sitting there taking in the sun, I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I sensed different flowers, animal life, and the refreshing scent of fresh rain. I opened my eyes and realized it was coming from Jasper. Goddess, his scent was so invigorating, it just gave me life. Ash's scent wasn't as enticing, I mean, it was enticing enough for me to go find him, but that was about it. Once I realized it was his scent, that was it. Dearest, are you okay? Jasper asked. You seem to be deep in thought, are you okay? I'm fine, I smiled. This is the first time in many years I've felt the sun rays warming my skin. I love it. Well, I'm sorry to ruin your zen moment, but it's been about 30 minutes, we should head back in so you can rest some more. We should also you get something to eat, I nodded, and we headed back in. As we made it through the front door, a lot of people started to look at us, and not just pack members of Blood Moon, but even the other visiting alphas, betas, and their pack members. Some people smiled, some glared, and some just blankly stared. We went to the staircase, but instead of going up, I went to my room. Saren, where are you going? Jasper asked. My room, I said pointing to the door. What? My room, this is it, I said and opened the door. He took one look inside, and then looked back at me in confusion. Dearest, this is a broom closet. Actually, it used to be the shoe closet, I said with a smart tone. He didn't take too kindly to that. You lived in this tiny thing for 8 years, he asked, and I just nodded. Saren, gather your belonging and come to the 4th floor. Why? Because you will be staying with me in my guest room until we leave in 2 days. Jasper, I'm not allowed on the 4th floor unless it's to clean. Well, those rules no longer apply to you. Now, please do as I say. The 4th floor, take a left, and it's the last room on the right. With that, he walked away and went upstairs. The feeling of having no other choice, I gathered what little clothing and personal items I had and went upstairs to the 4th floor. I took my time and eventually made it to the 4th floor. This is where all alphas and lunas stay, including Ash. It just so happens that Ash's room is down the same hallway and is the last room on the left, right across from Jasper's guest room. As I make my way down the hall, careful to not drop any of my personal effects, and I get to Jasper's guest room. I realize that my arms are full, and am about to kick the door with my foot when I hear a very unpleasant voice. Saren, what are you doing here? Chapter 5. Jasper's POV. I sat on the bed of my guest room and waited for Saren. I couldn't believe that Thole she had to live in these last 8 years. A shoe closet under the stairs. It didn't even look habitable. I couldn't wait to take Saren out of here, she deserved so much better. Not just because she was an alpha's daughter or my mate, but because she was a living and breathing person. The conditions that room was in made me want to vomit, and at the time, LOL every single pack member of the Blood Moon pack. After about 10 minutes, I felt that Saren was taking too long. I got up to go get her, but then I picked up the faint scent of chamomile tea outside my door. She was right outside. I was about to open the door for her when I heard someone's voice. Saren, what are you doing here? Ugh, what do you want, Ash? Goddess, why won't this pack leave my mate alone? Are they deaf or just plain stupid? That's alpha kale to you. You're not my alpha, my mate has a lot of spunk, and she definitely had that alpha aura. I'm still an alpha. Leave me alone, Ash, I'm sick of you and your familying up my life. Saren. Why are you doing this to me, he whined. What kind of alpha whines? I'm not doing anything. I'm trying to move on with my life. You belong to me, Saren. I had just about enough of this SHT. I opened the door and stared Kale right in the eyes. Get away from my mate, I expressed each word with great detail. Dearest, go inside, I tell Saren. Saren is my mate. The moon goddess gave her to me first. Alpha Ash, from what I have gathered, you rejected her, and she accepted that rejection, which means, she is no longer yours. I grit my teeth. Blade wants to rip this guy to shreds, and I'm about 5 seconds away from letting him. And I also understand that she had to reveal her true identity to you in order to make the acceptance, so, either you actually have feelings for her, which are no longer relevant now that I'm in the picture, or you only want her for her alpha blood. How do you know that she's? She told me her name, her full name. Her father and my father were friends before yours slaughtered her pack. Jasper, Saren said my name softly and gently grabbed my wrist. Please, just come inside. He's not worth it. Saren, please, come back to me, Kale begged her. You, Ash, she spat. Let's get one thing straight, even if you hadn't rejected me, I would have rejected you anyway. I want nothing to do with you or this pack. I told you that from the moment I accepted your rejection. I never want to be tied to you or this pack in any way, shape, or form. You can lie to yourself and to me all you want, but nothing will change the fact that I despise you. I always have, and I always will. Well, there you have it, Alpha Ash, Saren has made her decision. Now if you will excuse us, I need to have some bonding time with my Luna. I shoved him back, and quickly slammed the door in his face, locking it. I let out a short and irritated sigh and turned around to face Saren. I'm sorry about that, she said. Why are you apologizing? You did nothing wrong. I should have been quicker about coming up here. Hey, you have nothing to apologize for, I said and held her shoulders. I finally had a chance to look at her in detail and see the height difference. What? I just realized you're really small. What are you, 5'2"? 5'3"? I don't know, to be quite honest, I've never had my height checked. Okay, I'm 6'4", and you barely come up to the middle of my C.Hest, I said, standing up straight and putting my hand at the top of her head and lining it up. That's at least a foot difference. So, the tallest I could be is 5'4". Yeah, I looked down at her, and just saw nothing but perfection. Her hair was a sleek and shiny dirty blonde, chocolate eyes, her face was the size of my fist, her body was near perfection, although a little too skinny, probably from neglect. Overall, Saren was near perfect for me. You're staring again, she said to me. Sorry, I was taking you all in. I'm trying to commit you to memory. SHT, that sounded creepier than it should have. Are you hungry? I asked, quickly changing the subject. She chuckled and smiled. She had a beautiful smile. Yes, but I can wait until dinner. I'm used to not eating. What? She gasped and covered her mouth and slammed her eyes shut. Dearest, what do you mean you're used to not eating? Saren, have you been starved? Is that why you're so thin and malnourished? She made a face of regret and let out a short sigh. Yes, I could feel the anger in my body rising. Not only did they force her into labor as a child, they mistreated her, bust her, made her sleep in a shoe closet, but they starved her on top of all that. This pack was sick and twisted. I couldn't believe the elders have allowed such heinous activity to take place. I took a deep breath and let out another deep and heavy sigh. I pinched the bridge of my nose and grunted. Jasper, please don't be mad at me. I just wanted to be honest with you. I'm not mad you, baby, I'm mad at this pack. I don't understand how this SHT went on for 8 years, and it was never reported. What would have happened had I not been here last night? I'm certain that Nicole and Emma would have killed. No, they wouldn't have. That would mean Nicole and the other Omegas would have to do actual housework, like cleaning and cooking. The pack house would be in shambles if that ever happened. Well, it's happening, because they can't make you do any labor in this house anymore. And to answer your question, if you weren't here, I would have left on my own anyway. I looked at her confused. I know the laws, Jasper. I know that now that I've turned 18, Blood Moon can no longer hold me against my will. Slave or not, I have no ties to this pack by blood or by law. I was planning on leaving right at first light this morning, but with everything that happened last night, that plan kind of flew out the window. You're still going to be leaving, but with me and Kendrick. I still have a business to take care of while I am here, but I don't want you to worry about anything. I'm not worried, I'm just annoyed. It's like no matter where I go, I'm either going to run into Eric, Nicole, Ash, Emma, or some other pack member that hates me. Well, you don't seem to lack the self-confidence to stand up for yourself when they do. I just have a big mouth, I have no filter. I like that about you, Saren. You do? Yes, it's quite the turn on actually. Her face when I said that was more than a bit of shock. I'm not sure how to respond to that, she said shyly. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be so assertive, I just can't help it. No, it's okay. It's just that, no one has ever said that about me, so, I'm just a little taken aback by it. She cupped her cheeks and I could tell she was getting flustered. Seeing her get flustered made my heart flutter. I put my hands over hers, and she looked up at me with her beautiful chocolate-colored eyes. You are so beautiful, her eyes widened a little bit. I slowly leaned in, and I could feel her getting on her tippy toes. She closed her eyes first, and I leaned in further. Just a few more centimeters and her LPS would be mine. Closer, and I can feel her warm breaths, just as my LPS brushed hers. There was a knock on the door, completely ruining the moment. Saren quickly pulled away and turned her back to me. I let out a frustrated grunt. Knock knock knock. What? I grumbled. It's Ken. I opened the door and growled at him. What? This clothes, I was this in clothes, I whispered to him. My bad. What do you want? Food, I thought we were going out to eat, he said. Saren, dearest, are you ready to go out to eat? Out. Yes, out. I go over and grab her hand and lead her out of the room. I make sure to lock it, and the three of us head downstairs. Before we're able to go out of the front door, someone grabs Saren and pulls from me. This pack house was getting on my last nerve. Where do you think you're going? I heard a shrilling voice. What does it matter to you? I ask and turn around. Jasper, stop this nonsense, and reject her already. Everyone knows you belong with own kind. Emma shouts, causing a massive scene. What exactly do you mean, by our kind, Emma? I sneer at her. Our kind. Ranked wolves, not lonely orphaned rogues. Wow, you don't know anything, do you? I ask her and take Saren from her. I immediately bring my arms around Saren's waist and hold her close to me. I'm going to say this once, and only once. Saren is my mate. Period. I don't care what her rank is, or what her pedigree is. The moon goddess chose her for me, and I plan on keeping it that way. If anyone even so much as looks at Saren the wrong way while we are staying here, I will not hesitate to kill you. My pack may currently be on neutral grounds with this pack, however, there is nothing in the agreement that refrains me killing anyone who dares disrespect my mate. Saren is the future Luna to my pack, so she is off limits. Is that in any way unclear? There was cold silence that took over the room, and I could see Emma was about to blow a gasket. Alpha, the car is ready, Kendrick said to me. Saren, my love, let's go. Wait. I was this close to letting Blade out and killing someone. Alpha Jasper, we already missed lunch because of Saren being in the clinic, she needs to stay and make dinner. Nicole shouts. Get your own omegas to cook for you. My Luna is no longer your slave. And now that you all have missed one meal, perhaps you can get a feeling of what it's like to starve a little. After all, you starved her over the last 8 years, have you not? No one in the room could say anything. I turned us around again and we left. Ash's POV. Saren, please, come back to me, I begged her. You, Ash, she spat. Let's get one thing straight, even if you hadn't rejected me, I would have rejected you anyway. I want nothing to do with you or this pack. I told you that from the moment I accepted your rejection. I never want to be tied to you or this pack in any way, shape, or form. You can lie to yourself and to me all you want, but nothing will change the fact that I despise you. I always have, and I always will, she shouted at me. Every word she said was like a knife to the heart. Why did she still affect me like this? Well, there you have it, Alpha Ash, Saren has made her decision. Now if you will excuse us, I need to have some bonding time with my Luna. He shoved me back, and quickly slammed the door in my face. I heard it click, indicating he locked it. I stared at the door for a few minutes, and just hung my head. I turned around and went into my room. The room I should be sharing with her. Our Alpha and Luna room. Why did this have to happen? I need to win her back somehow, but her words kept replaying my head. She hates me, she despises me, and all I want is for her to love me in return. Moon Goddess, why? Why are you torturing me? I shouted at the top of my lungs. Is this how it's going to be? Instead of giving me a second chance as you did for her, you're going to make me pine for her? A woman that was never meant to be mine. I slammed the back of my head against my door. I sat there for a good 10 or 15 minutes, just wallowing in my self-pity. Then, I heard a knock on their door. I listened closely. It's Ken, it was Jasper's beta. I heard the door open. What? Kenrick asked in a confused tone. This close, I was this close, Jasper said. Did he mean what I think he meant? Was he trying to mate with Saren? My bad, Ken replied. What do you want? Food, I thought we were going out to eat. Saren, dearest, are you ready to go out to eat? Out. I heard Saren reiterate. Her voice was so innocent and sweet. Yes, out, I heard feet shuffling, the door close, and lock. I waited about 15 seconds before opening my door and looking out. I saw them go down the stairs, and Saren was holding his hand. I followed them, and before I got downstairs, I could hear my sister screaming. "Where do you think you're going? What does it matter to you?" I hear Jasper ask her. My sister was ruining everything. It's no wonder Saren wanted nothing to do with me. She would be stuck with in-laws like my sister. "Jasper, stop this nonsense, and reject her already. Everyone knows you belong with our kind." Emma shouts. "What exactly do you mean, by our kind, Emma?" "Our kind. Ranked wolves, not lonely orphaned rogues." "Wow, you don't know anything, do you?" Emma really didn't know anything. If she only knew that Saren was also an alpha's daughter, but it was none of her business. I peeked over the railing, and saw Jasper, holding Saren by the waist. His hands were near her. I couldn't bear to see any of this anymore, or hear anything else, so I went back to my room. I needed to figure out a way to get Saren back. I needed to find a way to get rid of Jasper Valencia. Saren's POV. I was mesmerized by the scenery unfolding ahead of me. I knew what cities looked like based on pictures and books I read, but seeing a city up close like this was nothing like I could have ever imagined. There were buildings that reached the sky, and cars everywhere. All sounds and smells just were hitting me all at once, and at first, I was overwhelmed, but Jasper helped me concentrate on a single smell, and then shove it aside, then focus on another, shove it aside, and so on and so forth. "Saren, is there anything specific you want to eat?" Jasper asked me. I don't really know what there is to eat other than stuff I cooked at the pack house." "What's your favorite kind of food?" Kendrick asked. "I don't know, honestly, I never ate much, to begin with." "Didn't the pack house ever order out?" Jasper asked. I nodded my head. For as long as I could remember, I cooked almost every day. On occasion, Eric would order delivery for the pack house, but I was never allowed to eat when that happened because it would be a waste according to Eric. There were nights where I didn't have to cook, but those were nights I was confined to my room and wasn't allowed to eat, I tell them honestly. "Wow," Kendrick said and shook his head. "Ken, let's go somewhere simple for now." "Sure, where to?" "Saren, do you know what Popeyes is?" Jasper asked. I shook my head again. "Do you know what fried chicken is?" "Yeah, that I know." "Okay, well this is fried chicken, but's more Cajun style." Okay," I replied. "You'll love it," Kendrick said from the driver's seat. I just smiled and nodded my head. I was up for trying anything. After a few minutes of driving, Kendrick pulled up into this small orange-colored building that had a large letter P on the sign. "Saren, go sit down with Ken, and I will order the food, okay?" I nodded and he went to the front to order. Kendrick and I sat at a larger table because apparently, these two eat a lot, and a smaller table wouldn't be enough room. After about 15 minutes, Kendrick got up to help Jasper bring all of the food. When they came back with 4 trays full of food, my eyes jumped out of my head. "Jasper, why did you get so much?" I asked him. "Because dearest, I want you to able to taste everything they have on the menu." My mouth dropped at the sight before me. "What do you want to drink?" "Drink? Soda, iced tea?" I've always wanted to try iced tea." They both looked at me funny. "Saren, you've never had iced tea before?" Kendrick asked. "No, I was only allowed to have water. Any other kind of drinks were prohibited." They looked at each other and shook their heads. They both walked away to get drinks, and then came back a minute later. "All right, try this," Jasper said, putting a piece of chicken on my plate. I picked it up and tried fried chicken for the first time. It was crunchy and a little salty, but in a good way. Well. I smiled and nodded. He then loaded a bunch of other things onto my plate for me to try. Most of what I saw were things I already knew, but some I had never tried before. I made sure to get a bite of everything, and I had to say that the mashed potatoes, red beans with rice, and the chicken STRPS were my favorite. I especially liked the honey mustard sauce. After eating almost everything that was ordered, I felt like my stomach was going to burst. I had never eaten so much in one sitting before. I probably ate more in this one place than I had in the last 8 years. My stomach was actually starting to hurt a little. "Did you want dessert?" Jasper asked. "Can I?" My stomach hurting was a thing of the past. "Of course," he said with a big smile. "Can we get ice cream?" I asked. Jasper smiled and Kendrick drove us to a place called Cold Stone. I was excited because it had been so long since I had ice cream. I remember eating it a lot when I was younger. My mom always let us have one scoop after dinner if we ate our veggies. I remember my favorite being chocolate. "Saren, what flavor did you want?" Jasper asked. I don't know. I've only ever had chocolate," I said, looking at the endless amount of options before me in the window. "Miss, you can try a few samples if you like," the person behind the glass said. "Do you want to try a few different ones?" Jasper asked. I nodded my head. "Which ones?" "You pick," I tell him. "Let's try the cheesecake, sweet cream, cotton candy, and mint." One by one the salesperson gives me small little spoons so I can try the ones Jasper picked out. I tried the mint first and shook my head. Then he gave me sweet cream, and I just kind of CD my head back and forth. Then I got cotton candy and shook my head again. The last one was cheesecake. "Wow! This one is so good!" I exclaimed. "Okay, so cheesecake in the medium cup, please." "Did you want any mix-ins?" the person asked, and I just looked at Jasper. "Let's make into the strawberry cheesecake, please." "Sure thing." I watched as the person scooped up the ice cream and put it onto the table. I saw that the table was ice cold. He added fresh strawberries and cookies to it and started to mix it together. He then scooped it up again and then put in a cup for me with a spoon. "Thank you," I said and reached over for it. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.